Hello, 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 hello. How's everybody doing? How's everybody feeling today? How's everybody grooving today? I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty swell. I'm feeling pretty well. Other words that are buzzwords that are rhymes with what I said? You know. Rhymes with what Yep. I can talk properly. 100%. Anyway, today, I'm not sure if it's called the Cosmere RPG, Cosmere TTRPG, or whether it's called the Stormlight TTRPG. But we're going to be looking through that. And I'm going to be as clueless as you physically can be. But I'm going to read through the world guide mostly. Where is this? That gets rid of that. Yeah, I figured it would be cool. My friend is really into it, and they wanted me to get into it, and so I'm going to try and get into it. While updating your information, sometimes we're removed. Oh, nerd is not allowed? Why is nerd not allowed? I am a nerd. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Who cares? Do we want to just quickly start? I don't think there's anything else I really want to talk about at the moment. I wish I could make it bigger. In fact, maybe that'll be the first thing I do. Okay, let's switch over. So we go into this. We go to the display capture. Can I just like, if I move it like here, and then I will like, do like this, and then I do that again. Like that? Is that good? Is that good? Can people see? I think that's better. Okay. We're just going to quickly go through this. Just sort of learning about the general lore. So I guess we should probably start with the introduction. You know what? I don't actually think I need music. I think actually when I'm doing this kind of stuff... Wait, do you see that? Does this appear on your screen? Doesn't seem like it. Okay, cool. I don't think I need it. I think it actually distracts me a bit from doing a lot of talking. Maybe this is just a personal thing, but anyway. So let's have a quick read for this. Actually, you know what? Is it... Should I read these out loud? I'm going to read these out loud. Sorry if I miss any of the pronunciations if you're really into it and I get it wrong. Roshar? The dominating and majestic tempest of a planet, uniquely shaped by 3 shards, it exhibits characteristics of odium, honor, and cultivation. I don't know who... Is odium a word I should know? Let me look this up. Hold on a second. Because honor and cultivation I have heard of before. What does odium mean? General and widespread hatred or disgust incurred by someone as a result of their actions. Okay, so that's not a particularly good thing. The inherent conflict between the 3 shard powers has led to a cycle of devastation and war, but it has also strengthened the people and beasts who manage to survive in the inhospitable world. Okay, so this world is not particularly... Like, ignore the swirling vortex of death and destruction. This place kind of seemed hospitable. I didn't think it was a particularly inhospitable area. But maybe they're the exceptions. Maybe they're like the oases or something. Roshar's indigenous people, the singers, hum to the world's rhythms, and they change their forms to embody new roles as they face and pose perilous threats. Is that supposed to be like how, like, is it supposed to be like a quick thing? Like they can change their shapes quickly? Or is it supposed to be like you know how like elves and goblins in a lot of lore like adapt to environments quickly? Maybe it was something like that. Like you'll have like the sea elves, the high elves, the sky elves, the dark elves. We'll see. Maybe I'll go into that. Humans who came to Roshar long ago abuse and subjugate one another, and the Singers, guided by avarice and unseen hand of and an unseen hand of hatred. What does it mean? Came to Roshar? Like, was it like a dimensional? Like, did they cross dimensions or something? Did they have a spaceship? All the while, heavily invested, heavily invested at high storms sweep across its singular continent, renewing the land while destroying those who do not heed them. The parched terrain awakens after each storm as vines unfurl and green shells emerge. If you visit, pack a coat, though ineffectual against the murderous high storms, you'll need it for your hike down from the Horn Eater Peaks. Be especially prudent during your time here, for the true desolation grows more dire by the day. If odium is permitted to consume the world, his hunger will not be sated. He will continue his ravenous conquest across the cosmos. Cosmere. Oh, that's the word. That's the thing. Until there is nothing left. The only way to stop such barbarous enmity is with unity, something in short supply across the locals, who have turned on each other as the global war against odium's forces intensifies. Okay, so is odium like a like the equivalent of like a demon lord in most fantasy? Like it's an overarching evil threat that everyone acknowledges as evil? Or is odium just meaning the concept of hatred? Because I've seen people that have been called like honor before in like fantasy things before. I'm just, by the way, I'm saying all of these questions. I'm not expecting them to get answered. I'm more sort of just talking through what's going through my head at the moment. Also, what I feel like I noticed in this, it kind of feels like it's coming from an outside perspective of someone who's traveling there. In which case, is dimensional travel a thing? Is this like in Magic the Gathering where there's planes of existence, but there's planeswalkers that just teleport to the planes with like relative ease? The fate of Cosmere itself hangs in the balance. Refer to my research within the pages to guide your way. There are heroes here, the Knights Radiant. Though they have failed many times before, their failure holds the answers to deliverance. If they are humble and valiant enough to see the storm through. Oh, and if they are valiant enough to see the storm through. Okay, right. Couple of things that I brought up here. It really talks about its odium's forces. Now, this could just be like a metaphor for like the forces of people who are going out there and spreading hatred. But it seems to imply that this is a person or an entity of some kind. In which case, does that mean that there's an entity called honor and an entity called cultivation? If so, they don't seem to be mentioned much in this little in like brief thing as being like a big force that's fighting them back. But maybe they're related to this Knights Radiant using this book. Uh, okay. I mean, I think this bit's the bit we want to be looking at. A description of Cosmere would fill endless libraries, but since you're reading this manuscript, surely your people know much of it already. In short, the Cosmere encompasses everything that exists, all the world's realms, and people found in this place. Okay, right, interesting. So is the Stormlight that I've heard of? Is that must be a world? Inversi Investiture. Hold on a second.
Investiture.
Investiture. Is the indestructible energy sufficing everything that exists across all worlds. All
Investiture.
investiture derives from adenolsium. Adenolsium. A Adonalsium. Adonalsium? The very power of creation. Through I forget it every time I do it. Through the energy flows through all living things. Some creatures are invested, specifically empowered with a greater concentration of this energy. A few invested creatures can even pour a measure of their power into an object, causing it to become invested and gain unique properties. Magic, effectively, from what I can gather. A person doesn't need to understand the energy, nor even know it exists to wield its power. The energy manifests differently across the world as its substances change across the physical, cognitive, and spiritual realms as well. On the world of Roshar, the energy primarily manifests as the luminescent vapor known as stormlight. Shards and splinters. Roshar has been shaped by three shards: cultivation, honor, and odium. These shards are fragments of divinity whom most mortals regard as gods. When a shard is divided, either willingly or unwillingly, it splinters into even smaller pieces. The spren of Roshar are examples of splinters. For more details on okay, right. So they are effectively living creatures. But are they just named those names, or are they actually embodiments of those concepts? We'll see when we get to there. All that exists across all worlds does so in three realms: the physical, the cognitive, and the spiritual. Mortal minds struggle to grasp this, but the realm can be conceptualized as if the physical realm were the body, the cognitive was the mind, and the spiritual was the soul. Right, yeah. I've come across that before. The physical realm is a realm of the tangible aspects of reality, home to particles, mass, and planets. This realm is what mortals most readily think of as reality. Fair enough. I didn't think I would need to be told about the physical realm, really. I imagine that would be the easiest to comprehend. The cognitive realm is the realm of thought, home to the cognitive aspects of living and non-living things. It can give form to the sheer concept of things, even those from spiritual realm which are normally without form. Often called Shadesmar, the cognitive realm is discussed in more detail, often called Shadesmar. As in, if I'm thinking of something, am I Shadesmarring? Or is it just saying that there's like a functional, the realm itself is called Shadesmar? Also, I don't understand the. I mean, it'll go into more detail if we get to. We won't get to chapter 7, but I might read that later. But I don't understand the words home to the cognitive aspects of living and non-living things. Because I don't understand what cognitive aspects a non-living thing has. Like, for example, like if I pick up this glass, like this glass isn't thinking, unless it is in that world. I don't know. The spiritual realm is a timeless realm of the essence of things, home to concepts like identity and connections. Through this realm, though this realm is outside space and time, everything that exists has a spiritual aspect. Regardless of how these aspects manifest in the other realms, in the spiritual realm they hold their truest form. Interesting. I would be interested to see what they consider the truest form. Like, do they mean just like energy? Or do they mean like me in the spiritual realm? Am I just me but true to myself? Or am I just living energy? Perpen per, Perpendicularities? Perpendicularities? I'm going to see if I can say this correctly. Hold on a second. Let's see what it says here. Perpendicularity. Perpendicular. Perpendicularity. I can't say it. I can't say it. While the three realms are usually separate, it's possible to bend them into a junction, generally in an area with enormous energy, forming that thing that I can't say that allows you to travel between realms. Most are created by shards. Okay, and shards are the god things. I'm interested to see what that can be used for, but at the end of the day, I feel like this might be a later thing. The world itself, that's probably a good place to start. Beset by an endless cycle of violent storms and populated by fragments of the power of creation, Roshar is a world shaped by divine mathematics and concentrated energy. This chapter provides an overview. Okay, cool. Roshar's an ecosystem. On Roshar, high storms and spren interconnect all life. The world's native flora and fauna flourish despite and even because of the severe weather, having evolved remarkable protections such as a protective shells and carapace. The high storms deposit nutrient-filled sediment that sustains Roshar's creatures, nurturing the gem hearts within and enabling the creatures to form symbiotic bonds with Spren. Oh, bonds with the lesser divinity things. Oh, interesting. And so the fauna thrive and the Spren brush the physical realm. Interesting. So they like merge to make like a, I don't know, like an order ball. It has like a spren of order in it. Maybe. Interesting that they've all decided that the way to deal with the storm is to get a protective shell and carapace. Because in my head, the way that I would deal with a storm if I'm like an animal, for example, and I think plants could also do this. I don't think it's too far out for even like plants in our world to do this. I would just, whenever the storm's going in, which look, animals and plants can sort of just sense those inherently. They can, I think in real life they sometimes sense blimmin' storms, but I would just go underground because then the storm's not nearly doing barely any damage to me, if anything. And I just come up, have all the nutrient rich sediment, and then when the storm comes again, I go down again. So it's interesting that they've all decided to go with the carapace shell instead. Several sapient species inhabit Roshar, most notably singers and humans. Singers are indigenous to the world, with the carapace armor and their ability to transform their bodies into useful forms by forming bonds with Spren. Oh, okay, so they're doing what the animals do. That kind of makes sense. Singers are naturally adapted to Roshar's climate, terrain, and other native life forms. For more details on singers, yep, humans evolved in very different circumstances before migrating to Roshar, because they said it was only one continent, so they've not come from somewhere else. Unless there's other continents, but they weren't mentioning it there because they weren't relevant. They colonized the regions that were most hospitable for their species. Then, as their conquest continued, the humans learned to shelter from challenging conditions. Interesting. I wonder if this is a Native American, um, discovering the Americas kind of idea going here, where people came on boat from another land and they come to this land and they colonize it. It might be something else. Measuring time. The Rosharian year contains 500 days, and its end is marked by the first 2 weeks of the weeping. Interesting. I like having a flat 500 days, always nice, always easy to sort of figure out instead of like 365 and like a quarter. Is it 364 and a quarter? The Singer Rhythm of Peace. Singers measure the passage of time intuitively by attuning to the rhythm of peace, a planetary rhythm that constantly revolves for those able to hear it. Its gentle beats vary in layered cycles. The first cycle is tied to the pure tons. The it is tied to the pure tons of Roshar itself. The pure tones. I'm an idiot. It's tones. The second cycle syncs with the lull, a weather phenomena that occurs every 500 days. The third cycle accounts for the position of the three moons as they orbit once a day. Ever present but subtle, the rhythm of peace easily fades into the background. A singer who concentrates on it for a stanza, listening for the intensity of beats and the space between, can determine the current period of the 3 cycles and thus the current date and time. Okay, so from what I can gather is the first cycle is potentially... The first cycle is potentially like the day. No, the first cycle is potentially maybe the... like the minute or the hour. The second cycle is obviously the year. And then the third cycle is obviously the day. Interesting. Okay, I like that. The human calendar. The humans of Roshar divide each year into 10 months, each month into 10 weeks, and each week into 5 days. The Roshar day is 20 hours long. The sun rises at the 5th hour and sets at the 15th. Okay, interesting. In Eastern Roshar, the human calendar months, weeks, and days are named after the Vorin Faith's numbering system, which is unsurprisingly named after the Fates' revered heralds. Yes, Nan. Okay, it's just a bunch of names I won't know anything about. Adding a series of suffixes to these days indicating the current date. Dates are written in glyphs in order of year, month, week, and day, with each number separated by periods. For example, the third day of Isha during the month of Isha in the year 1173 would be written as 1173 10 10 3. I don't, I don't understand this. The third day of Isha, during the month of Isha, what? Do they use the number for the... Do they do a thing where like the first day is like Jess and the first month is also Jess? So it would be Jess, year, and then the year. Or am I misunderstanding here? I don't understand why they call it the third day of Isha, and then they go during the month of Isha. As can there be a third day of Isha not on the month of Isha or Ishai? I'll have to go back to that because I don't really understand that. Each month is 10 weeks. Oh, yeah, I think they do. I think they do. I think they use both. They use the revered heralds for both the week and the... They do it for both the week and the month? That feels confusing. That's a bit weird. Okay. The last 2 weeks of each Rosharan year usher in what humans call the weeping, while listeners call it the lull. I'm assuming listeners are singers? The steady rain continues almost ceaselessly for 4 weeks, interrupted only by a light day, marking the Rosharian New Year, which brings weather of its own. In even number years, the light day is a clear day, but in odd number of days, it brings a high storm. After this, the weeping resumes for another 2 weeks. So it goes 2 weeks of raining, not necessarily a storm, just raining. And then if it's an odd, if it's an even day, you just have a nice clear day that's like a calm before the storm, like the middle of the storm, effectively. And then it just becomes raining again. But on the odd times, it's just a storm. Halfway through the year, at the midpoint between between weepings, lies a 4 week period with no high storms. Oh, that's good. Currency. Due to both their beauty and usefulness, gemstones are a common currency on Roshar. Well, I do remember them bringing up br- briefly before that don't these animals or the plants or the shards have like gem hearts or something? The listeners collect and use gems as a currency, harvesting gem hearts to use in farming. By drumming the rhythm of cultivation in the presence of crops, listeners prompt Lifespan to transfer stormlight from the infused gems into glowing plants. While listeners frequently adorn themselves with uncut gems, they don't use them as currency. Instead, listeners barter with goods and services, receiving a portion of each family's resource to support children and those who can't work. Right, so the listeners, I thought it said commodity, but it says community. I'm sorry, I am dyslexic. Um, so what it's saying here is the listeners, which I'm assuming are the singers, um, they use currency, what these people would call currency, the gems, to just make their plants grow. Um, while in human culture they use it as currency. Most human-ruled nations use spheres, pieces of gems encased in glass beads, as their primary currency. Unencased gems can also be used as currency in some places, with an upcharge for being more difficult to authenticate. Each glass sphere is roughly the size of a human thumbnail, with one side slightly flattened to prevent the sphere from rolling away. The monetary value of the sphere is determined by the size and type of the gemstone encased inside. These spheres are prized in part for each gem's ability to grow a small quantity of stormlight, which seems like it's the magic here. When infused, these lit gems are further enhanced by their glass encasement. Many people prefer infused spheres over dun spheres, those without light, as the stormlight easily proves the currency is real. What's a nun sphere? Sorry, a dun sphere. Oh, is a dun sphere by context something that doesn't just produce light when you go through it? Which could mean that it could still be a gem, but you can't authenticate it. That makes sense. Right, I understand. Regardless of gem types, spheres have three denominations, from the smallest gem to the largest. It's chips, marks, and bromes. Bromes? One mark equals 5 chips, and one brome equals 4 marks or 20 chips. One mark equals 5 chips. So, chips the highest. Wait, no, chips the smallest. You have 5 of them, you make 1 mark. 1 mark is 4. Okay, so it's a 4 situation. It goes 5 to 4, and then obviously there's the 20 difference. In addition to denominations, gem types vary in monetary value, determined by the relative value in soul casting. Diamond spheres are the least valuable for simplicity. When discussing item value, the game expresses all Rosharian prices in diamond marks. So not diamond chips, but diamond marks. Interesting. Rather than each gemstone having a unique value, they're instead categorized into tiers. These sphere value table lists the 5 tiers of gemstones and their value compared to diamond marks. Okay. You got diamonds. Okay. Garnet and topaz are effectively a chip is the same as a mark. Um okay. And then rubies and smokestones and zircon, there a chip is the same as 2 marks of diamond marks, and then it's 5 for amethyst and a sapphire, and then emerald it's 10. So emeralds are the best seemingly. The high storm. The high storm, a weather phenomena unique to Roshar, has I can't even say that word. Hold on a second. Irrevocably, it's completely just shaped the world and its flora and fauna. Humans and singer cultures are heavily influenced by high storms. This is due in part to the danger they possess, but more importantly, these storms have long been the primary source of energy on Roshar. High storms A high storm is an immense hurricane that continually travels Roshar. But unlike storms on many other worlds, high storms are powerfully invested. Singers can seek transformations during them, and the humans of Roshar depend on the storms to replenish the stormlight in their spheres. Interesting. So not only is it damaging, but it also is like a living ball of energy, which helps them. I wonder if there's people that are just like you know how there's people in America, and I think it's other countries, but I think of America when I think of it, they do storm chasing, where they just follow in like a van, following a storm, and just like are looking out for and taking pictures of like hurricanes and stuff. I wonder if there's people who do that. That'd be kind of funny. As each high storm moves east to west across the continent, it gradually decreases in strength. By the time a high storm passes over the misted mountains east of Shinova, it's indistinguishable from a regular storm. Okay. So even at its weakest, it's still a regular storm. That's still interesting. I wonder, there must be a lot of civilizations that just live underground or live in mountains and stuff, right? Because it's just natural defenses. A high storm's arrival is marked by grey skies, burgeoning winds, and dense humid air. Once it nears, it appears as a flood of rain on the horizon, with thick black clouds lit by flashes of lightning. As a high storm passes overhead, it goes through 3 stages. In front, called the storm wall, is a visible shroud carrying tempestuous winds, destructive debris, and torrential rain. This storm wall is generally considered the most dangerous part of the high storm. The storm's main body isn't as deadly as the storm wall, as it carries less debris, but the winds remain powerful enough to hurl large objects such as loose boulders. The end of a high storm, known as the Riddens, is characterized by light rain and mild winds. Okay, so once you're at that point, you're fine. Many humans and singers believe high storms form at the so-called origin of storms, a location far to the east of the Rosharan continent. This origin existence is questionable. Many stories tell of people who sailed to find it but either failed in their quest or never returned. Despite these ancient myths, there modern storm wardens believe there's only a single high storm that circles Roshar rather than many originating from a legendary origin. Interesting. So it just does a loop. Well, couldn't you easily figure that out? If you had a situation where a high storm was happening in one place and another place at the same time, right? I guess that requires you having. It doesn't require you to have long range communication, but maybe it requires you to actually be working with other people, you know? In eastern Roshar, where hardy plants cling directly to storm-scorched stone, soil doesn't exist. How is that possible? However, creme plays a similar role in the ecosystem. The light brown sediment accumulates on surfaces during high storms, and unless cleaned, creme covers and inevitably buries exposed objects. As a result, some scholars use clems layers to help date discoveries. Though this technique is less reliable in regions where creme builds unevenly, creme provides the necessary nutrients for Rochar's native life. Flora use it to reinforce natural defenses against high storms, while creatures with gem hearts grow them by drinking creme. While creatures with gem hearts grow them by drinking creme water. Creme serves more and more. Serves more and more. Creme serves many more purposes for humans and singers. For instance, it offers fertilizer for farmers, for farming, and sealant to deter pests from fields. Creme can also be filtered from rainwater and shaped like clay, and both singers and humans utilize it as building material. Humans create bricks from it and use it for insulation, while listeners shape rough clay into simple buildings that can easily be rebuilt as needed. Okay, so one's going for longevity, one's going for, well, I can rebuild this and it's fine. So what's the functional difference between creme and soil then? It does the same job for plants. And what do they mean when then they say soil doesn't exist? Because what does soil consist of? So it's minerals and organic matter. So what I don't understand is they say soil doesn't exist, but minerals exist because there's minerals in stone. Stone is a mineral. Organic material exists because plants exist. So how can you say soil doesn't exist? Unless the storm completely vaporizes stuff? What should happen is the dead plants should die. The shavings of like stone from like wear and tear or the storm itself should then combine, and that should make soil, right? I don't know. I haven't looked into this a lot, but I don't understand how soil can't exist. I could understand if it's in low quantity. High storms have directly influenced the evolution of singers and human culture in Roshar. For singers, high storms offer the potential for transformation. While venturing into one is dangerous, singers' bodies can typically withstand the onslaught of elements. While in a high storm, a singer can attract and bond a spren by having the right mindset for the desired type of spren. When they do, the bonded spren grants them a certain form. Singers' forms serve many specialized purposes, from allowing for reproduction to optimizing for combat. This process holds much significance for singers, especially as they prepare for a new phase in their lives. Humans, however, have no chance of surviving a high storm without shelter. They construct buildings with defensibly eastern or stormward side, and on the eastern side or leeward side, they place fragile architecture elements such as windows or balconies. Humans prefer to establish settlements in locations with natural protection against high storms, but if that's not an option, they create windbreaks and similar defensive structures to serve instead. What I find interesting here is they mention here that the singers don't really, they go out no like extra armor on. The carapace that they seemingly have being able to weather the high storms easily, right? What I find interesting about that is they seem insanely overpowered. What? Not just that. they also can have combat forms? That seems powerful. Other human adaptations to high storms include creating storm systems to filter clean drinking water, building storm shelters to comfortably wait out high storms, and adopting sanitation practices to prevent refuse from being swept from one town to another. That makes sense? That makes sense. Seems like the humans are just much more like technologically advanced, which again makes me really feel like they're going for the whole idea of Native Americans here. The prevalence of high storms has influenced human and singer language. Humans frequently invoke storms as curses to express frustration or anger. For example, storm it, storm take you, and storming man. Right, okay, so it's used instead of fuck. Fair enough. Singers tend to speak more positively of storms, referencing them not as something to be avoided or loathed, but revered for the change they bring. Singer language also refers to storms more casually, such as using storm pause to refer to the time between high storms. Storm wardens. Storm wardens are human scholars who predict high storms using mathematics and glyph-based script. The Vorin Church frowns on storm wardens both for predicting the future and for allowing men to read and write. Okay. Despite this, storm wardens are undeniably useful. Even some devout Vorist to, Vorist to the to, even some devout Vorins tolerate their presence, and storm wardens often work for governments and military officers. For millennia, life on Roshar consist with continent-wide storms long ago, adapting to the consistency of east to west high storms. Sorry, let me read that again. For millennia, life on Roshar consisted with. For millennia, life on Roshar coexisted with continent-wide storms long ago, adapting to the consistency of east to west high storms. However, at the end of the era of solitude, the Everstorm was summoned, and it remains an active threat on Roshar today. Because this unnatural storm travels west to east, the humans' protection and precautions against the high storms prove insufficient, and the Everstorm's initial arrival caused untold chaos and destruction. Kind of feels like it wouldn't to the. It doesn't feel like it would to the singers. The Everstorm is invested and driven by Odion. Oh, the god? The storm is characterized by black clouds and red lightning. It lacks some properties of a high storm. It has no storm wall and carries no crem. But its violent winds, lightning, and debris can be just as destructive. The Everstorm typically appears every 9 days, though Odium can exert direct control over the speed of the storm, either hastening its passage across Roshar or slowing it to a standstill. I have a question about this. If one's going west to east and the other one's going east to west, what happens when they meet? Because that inevitably must happen, right? When the Everstone appears, the most dramatic effect was freeing the many singers whose identity and agency had been stolen. They were mind controlled, restoring their ability to hear and attune the rhythms. Within the Everstorm, the fused, ancient, powerful singers can be reborn through claiming the bodies of singers who sacrificed their own lives in the process. Within the Everstorm, the fused, ancient, powerful singers can be reborn through claiming the bodies of singers who sacrificed their own lives in the process. Jesus, okay. Stormlight. The main form of energy on Roshar is regularly recharged by the continual passage of high storms. When not contained, stormlight appears and behaves much like luminescent white smoke. Humans and singers can gather stormlight by leaving out dung gems before a high storm. When the gems are exposed to stormlight infuses them, and the gems glow with a contained power. Stormlight gradually leaks from most containers it's held in, including from a surge binder, a person infused with power. Interesting, so it's never permanent. People can only hold stormlight for minutes. Spheres can hold it for days, and larger gemstones can hold it for longer still. While rare, perfect gemstones can hold stormlight indefinitely. As a renewable resource, stormlight serves many purposes. The people of Roshar use infused spheres as their primary life source, gathering the gems and lanterns and light fixtures to provide steady illumination. Fabrials, marvelous devices powered by stormlight, can only operate if the component gems are infused. Okay, singers also use rhythms alongside stormlight infused gems to encourage the growth of crops. Yes, I remember that. Surge binders are people who fuel their abilities with stormlight. They acquire stormlight by breathing it in. Sorry, breathing it in. This usually comes from a limited supply provided by their infused gemstones, but surge binders can continually renew stormlight while near a high storm or perpendicular to, I can't say that word, but near it, I'm guessing. The surge binding section later in the area. Flora. Let's have a look at this flora. As with all Roshar's native life, the world's beautifully resilient flora is adapted to survive the constant high storms and desolate environments. Vegetation typically grows on the western side of geographical landmarks, such as hills or valleys, where it's sheltered from the worst of the high storms. Makes complete sense. Most plants have also developed defensive shells when they detect nearby movement or incoming high storms. These plants withdraw their vulnerable structures into their shells until danger passes. The people of Roshar have learned to cultivate flora that doesn't retract as readily. Combined with techniques to control plant growth, gardeners can create stunning ornamental gardens or individual houseplants. Interesting. Interesting. On the eastern edge of the continent, where high storms are at its most powerful, most plants grow in heavily sheltered areas called lattice. However, a few hardy plants sprout on open grounds, including species like knobweed that rely on high storm winds to spread their seed. Makes sense. That makes complete sense, actually. A lot of plants just rely on wind or potentially other flora to actually spread their seed as well. So that makes sense. On the western side of the continent, where the high storms are much less brutal, vegetation is less sensitive and retracts into the shell slowly, or not at all. Okay, let's have a look at some of these. Rock buds. The Roshan's term rock buds refers to both a specific plant, known as the true rock bud or common rock bud, as well as to many plant species possessing a rock-like outer shell. Many of these species can grow to the size of a barrel. Jesus, that's big. To grow their shell, rock buds draw minerals from the creme water, and the environment. Rock buds that root and stone structures must be diligently removed lest they eat away at the stone and compromise it. Okay. This unnatural life form is classified as flora by Roshan scholars. I'm guessing, by the way, the rock buds are not edible and are not used in. Are they just a weed then? I guess, maybe. Classified as fauna by Roshan scholars, but in truth, shale bark is formed by an animal that lives within its rock-like protective exterior. Shale bark takes on a fascinating variety of vivid colours and visually interesting shapes, from flat and folded to bulbous and knobby. They really like the word knobby, eh? Some types of shale bark have symbiotic relationships with snails and kremlings. These creatures clean moss and lichen off the shale bark, and in turn, they're camouflaged from predators. Humans and singers cultivate shale bark as both ornamental plants and architectural elements. Okay, so that one also isn't something you can eat. Which one of these is shale bark? Because that's a rock bud. Maybe it's these things? I don't know. Let me just move around a bit. Like other plants, the trees of Roshar have evolved to withstand their environment. These stone-barked Pardon me. These stone-barked dale willows have long fronds that twist in the wind. Jelly trees absorb crem to reinforce their wooden trunks and its branches, whose red needle-like leaves retract for protection. The creme lends these trees a distinctive light brown coloration and rocky texture. Macam trees produce a strong but lightweight wood valued for constructing structures like the mobile bridges of the war camps, eh? So you got the stonebark trees that just have bits that go like this in the wind. You got the jelly trees that absorb creme to reinforce themselves, and then they look light brown. And then you've got the macam trees that are just good. They're just strong and good. Stable crops of Rochard include Lavis, Telou, and Clemmer. These labour-intensive grains are farmed across Rochard. Clemmer is used to make the granular clever bread. Okay, so it's wheat. Tallow can be stored for months, making it useful for rations. Okay, and is often prepared by either boiling or steaming and adding spices. What's a good... That feels like a potato. Lavis grains are crushed and combined with spices to create kuma, or steamed as a side dish. I don't know. That just seems like wheat again, so I'm not sure. Both tallow and lavis can also be fermented and distilled into alcoholic drinks, very much like wheat. Okay, cool. Bitterleaf, used as treatment for epileptic seizures. Bitterleaf can be steeped as a daily tea. Is most okay. Blood Ivy, name for its crimson. Okay, I'm gonna go through. These are interesting, but we want to get back into the lore a bit more, not specific plants. But like blood ivory is used for viruses, respiratory ones. Fathom bark seems to be an anti-inflammatory. Four leaf is woods off infection. Knobweed is a common weed that goes. It's an antiseptic. That's pretty useful. Lister's oil is just a long shelf life antiseptic. Used an anesthetic. Winter wart. Okay. It also induces sleep. Okay, cool. Hazardous plants. You have the fire moss, which is it spontaneously combusts once dried. I can see the use in that. But it can also be used as an antiseptic. Interesting. Oh, but it's highly addictive. Produces smoke. Right, okay. When you rub it together, it produces smoke and you can breathe that in. Black bane is one of the deadliest natural poisons. Interesting. The longer its leaves, the more potent the poison is. Non-native. This might actually have some lore in it. Due to the Shinovan region unusually mild high storms, its flora never adapted to harsh conditions, and its ecology varies dramatically from the rest of Rochard. Most of Shinova's plant life isn't native to Rochard. It's descendant from plants brought by the human refugees from Ashin. I'm guessing that's a continent or planet? Although Rochard seems to be the planet. I'm not sure. Unlike the rest of Rochard, Shinova's ground is comprised of soil. Plants don't retreat from movement, such as grass can flourish there. Shin's farmers cultivate crops including wheat, strawberries, and grapes. So if you get something like that, I imagine it's like a luxury. I don't understand why grass can't flourish though. That's what. Wind isn't doing that much damage to grass. It's made to flop. I guess maybe it doesn't naturally get anything from the creme. God, the place looks... I can see why they say it's barren. It's because grass doesn't exist. Common characteristics. To weather the storm, most Roshar's native fauna have outer shells or carapaces. These crustaceans also naturally grow gem hearts. The larger the animal, the larger this gem that forms within them. Gem hearts allow certain species to form symbiotic relationships with spren. That's the word. Large gem hearts are prized and hunted by humans, who use them as a currency and for soul casting. The animals of Roshar have potential to develop sapience, and several have done so, including the Santidian, Taine, Chasm Fiends, Larkin, and Rhydesadium horses. This potential has been amplified by cultivation's presence on Roshar. They just casually have sapience? Why isn't that talked about more? Great shells. Roshar's crustaceous megafauna are referred to as great shells. This classification encompasses both aquatic and terrestrial species. Great shells generally have small populations and require one or more stages of pupation to fully mature. Due to their size, great shells have the largest gem hearts, and humans have hunted some species to extinction. Great shells can form symbiotic bonds with the Lux spren. Without these bonds, the largest great shell would be unable to move, and their own weight would crush them. Well, they say they've made a bond with the Lux spren, but they don't sound that lucky. Because some of them got blimmin' hunted to extinction. The Chasm Fiend is one of Roshar's most infamous. The Chasm Fiend is one of the Roshar's most infamous great shells. Okay, so those are the ones that have sentience, right? This predatory species makes its home within the chasms of the Shattered Plains. Okay, anything about them? No. Okay. The Taine, the largest great shell on Roshar, are island-sized creatures native to the Reshi Sea. Their shells support entire jungle ecosystems. Trees take root on their carapace and rock buds grow from the top of their heads. Tiny are worshipped as gods by the Rashai, who established communities on their backs. Notably, the Rashai believe the great shells to be sapient, due to the Taine's bond with the remarkable spren. Oh, so the Taine are just a completely different species that I'm guessing we can't play? Beyond great shells, most of Rashar's native fauna are smaller species with hard shells and flexible carapace. Numerous species of tiny scavengers are commonly grouped together as cremlings. Used as pests, cremlings often eat anything from plants to carrion to live prey. Many larger crustacean species are domesticated or even viewed as pets. Chulls are large-shelled animals often used for pulling caravans and other hard labor. Grumphans are domesticated pasture animals raised for their gem hearts, which are used to soul cast meat. Other wild creatures can be found in different regions of Roshar. White spines are cunning, deadly, and highly mobile predators. Axe hinds are lean quadrupedal herbivores with minimal carapace. Though hunted for their meat, they prove difficult to catch due to their skittish demeanor and quick, powerful legs. Non-shelled creatures, though rare compared to crustaceous creatures, a few native Roshar species don't have shells or carapace. These include a variety of aquatic species, makes sense, because they don't need to shelter the storm that badly, along with several terrestrial species. Axehounds are predatory pack animals, but humans have domesticated them as household pets. Sky eels are flying animals who dwell near coastal regions. Thanks to natural camouflage on their backs and underbellies, Skriels can hide from predators both above and below. Lurgs are fist-sized amphibians whose cocoon dissolve during rainstorms, signaling them to hunt insects. Children often Children often pester lungs by pouring water on their cocoons, tricking the creature into jumping around in search of food. Ah, that's not nice. Most non-native creatures live in that random place that seems to have soil. Among these are horses. Okay, so it's like the human world. They just have horses. Most mammals don't fare well on Roshar unless domesticated, but hogs, rats, and minks stubbornly persist in the wild. Hogs are the most common source of non-soulcast meat. Rats are the pests who often refer. Yep. Minks are scavengers who skulk in the. Are minks? Are minks a real thing? Or am I mixing up? Because in my head, a mink sounds like a ferret. Is that the classification for a ferret? I'm not sure. Several bird species exist on Roshar, though they fare poorly in the wild and require domestication to thrive. Most humans cultures refer to birds, no matter their species, as chickens. Okay, that doesn't feel fair. Chickens are like... I wouldn't want to be called that if I was an eagle. I'm honestly really, really surprised that they don't have species that just live in the storm. Because they'd constantly have that nutritious creme in them. Also, completely off topic, do you reckon they use the word creme in like sexual flirting things? All I can think of is it sounds like something related to cum. I know it's not. I'm really sorry, but it's the only thing in my head and I had to say it out loud. I'm sorry. Let's get back to the thing. Sorry, I'm sorry. Spren. I was quite interested in these Spren, so it'd be interesting to see. Spren are splinters of energy, though they pale in comparison to the vastly powerful shards they came from. These fragments of creation personify concepts, and some can even grow sapience through connection to sapient creatures. Vast in number throughout Roshar, Spren greatly vary in appearance, features, and intelligence. Many appear instinctively in the physical realm in response to emotions or natural phenomena. Others can change their shape, mimic voices, and choose which people they are visible to. Radiant Spren are intelligent and form their own societies in the cognitive realm, but not in the real realm? Interesting. Spren feel pain but are difficult to kill. When a Radiant with a strong Spren bond breaks their oath, their bonded Spren is deeply traumatized and becomes a dead eye. Spren can also be permanently killed using anti-light. Okay. Spren fall into several categories: Lesser Spren, Radiant Spren, Unique Spren, Void Spren, and Corrupted Spren. Most Spren are non-sapient and manifest naturally on Roshar. These lesser Spren, sometimes known as Sub-Spren, become visible in the physical realm in response to certain stimuli. A few lesser Spren are visible in their entirety in the physical realm, but most can only be fully perceived from within the Shadesmere, the cognitive realm. Wait, yeah, I think that is. Lesser Spren can be subdivided into two types, emotional Spren and nature Spren. Emotion Spren gravitate to intense feelings such as anger, fear, and joy. However, they're rare in crowds, even amidst heightened emotions. Common types of Spren include the following. Okay, so before I get into the common types of Spren for emotive ones, it seems like they come to you if you have intense emotions, but on your own, or not in a crowd, right? Which is interesting. So it seems like it maybe is personal blimmin' strong emotions. Anger Spren manifests as a pool of boiling blood near an enraged person's feet. Okay. Anticipitation? Show me what this word means, O great Google, who will eventually take us over. The action of anticipating something. Oh. Look like red streamers emerging from the ground near people who are awaiting something. Beauty Spren appear as golden sparkles that glisten near a person who is particularly taken with someone, or something beauty, possibly even their own. Wow, you can't blimmin' hide your feelings, can you? In this world, just you've got to always bring a couple of guys with you, just to blanket out the ability. Because if you're angry and you're just trying to hide it, or you just don't want to make a fuss about it, but you are angry, just blood appears at your feet. Potentially blood could appear on your feet, and like you might be like, "Oh, I can't wait," but I don't want to show them. And like you learn about a surprise party, and you're like, "Oh, I can't wait to just." I'll have to act surprised, obviously, but I can't wait for it. And then you're making your way there, and they see the red streamers appearing near you, and they're like, "Oh, he knows. He knows. That's not fair." And like if you're like somebody, oh, I love this person, because I noticed here there isn't a love spren, but there is a beauty spren. So you're like, oh, I love that this person is so beautiful in my eyes, and it's like golden sparkles appear, and then you're in a relationship with them, and then one time you see them and you don't have the sparkles, and they look at you and go, why don't you have the sparkles? Do you not consider me beautiful anymore? I feel like that could be a huge problem. Exhaustion spren. Oh, that would be constantly around me. I'm constantly exhausted. Well, there'd be brown dust around me. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. People might think I've just done a particularly bad fart. I don't like that at all. Fierce Brent, sure, makes sense. Globs of purple glue. It would It would scare me even more because it made me realize how scared I was and make me more scared. You know, it's a feedback loop. Glory Spren appear as translucent golden orbs around those experiencing great triumph. Oh, Triumph. I don't think I'd ever see that one. Joy Spren rarely manifests, but they occasionally appear as blue leaves circling someone expressing jubilation. Ah, that would always be nice if you saw that around somebody. Pain Spren swarms a person in pain, appearing as orange hands grasping at the injury. That would fucking scare me. Shame Spren look like red and blue and white petals falling to the ground beside an ashamed person. Shock Spren appear as pale yellow triangles that break flag. Yeah. Near naturally in a I'd wonder if I'd want to know how often the spren manifest. Like, is it one of those situations where if I get just a bit angry, like if I'm having an argument with somebody that like just gets a bit too far and I'm getting a bit angry, does blood just appear all the time when I do that? Or is it a situation where that rarely happens and you know it's bad when it happens? Be interested to see. Nature's Sphen appear near phenomena such as fire, rain, and decay. Common types of Sphen, nature Sphen include the following: cold Sphen, yeah. Decay Sphen, yeah. Flame Sphen, yeah. Okay, they look like the thing. Like I'm not gonna go into them, but like, I mean that adds to the storm because I imagine there's a bunch of rain Spren in it with glowing blue candles. There's probably a load of wind Spren in it with ribbons of like just going around wind with ribbons of light in them. You gotta assume that there's a decent amount of blimmin' cold spren as well. Radiant spren. Radiant spren are sapient and embody higher concepts such as honor and truth. When they enter the physical realm, they lose memories and cognitive function unless they form a Nehel bond and remain close to their surge binder. In Shadesmere, Radiant Spren have humanoid forms, but their appearances are similar in the physical realm. Okay, there are 9 type of radiant spren, including the following: ash spren, great surges to dustbringers. In the physical realm, they manifest as branching cracks that burn across surfaces or within objects. Their shade spren form have ash white skin that crumbles to reveal bone and then reform. Okay, immediate question that comes to me: why aren't there more powerful versions of these lesser spren? Surely if I have a powerful enough emotion of anger, an anger spren should be able to form into in the physical realm. Why do these specific types of either emotions or phenomena produce spren of that type? It feels weird. I'm probably going to be just asking a load of questions to my friend if I'm being honest. Cultivation spren, great surges to edge dancers. I don't know what these grant surges means, but I'm guessing maybe powers. In the physical realm, they manifest as vines and crystals that sometimes resemble a humanoid face. The Shadesmere forms resemble humans made of tightly woven vines with crystal hands and eyes. I mean, visually, that's my go-to. I love nature, so that would be my go-to. I've got no idea what they represent, though. Highspren, great surges to skybreakers. In the physical realm, they are usually manifest as holes in the air that reveal a dark, starry sky. They form as in their shades around. They form as humanoid silhouettes like windows to the same starscape. I am really interested to know what these two really represent. Like, does this mean? I'm assuming this doesn't mean I'm high on something, and I'm assuming this one doesn't just mean I like planting plants. Honospren. Grandstatues in the physical one, these are manifest as a miniature version of their self. They can shape shift as will. They have a humanoid figures glowing softly with blue white light. Okay. You got the ink spren. They can change the what does ink represent? Cryptics. The lie spren. Okay, I can understand why the lie spren would be so powerful. Light spren, uh, comet, sure. Mist spren. I guess with the storm being around, there's a lot of mist that comes with it. And then the peak spren, I'm assuming that's because of the big mountains, and the mountains are very useful. Okay, I understand. A few spren are one of a kind. These unique spren include the Unmade, the Irali spren, the Crucichesh, and the Bondsmith spren. Bondsmith spren, unlike other surge binders, a bondsmith's powers are granted by a unique spren rather than by a radiant spren. There are three known bondsmith spren. The Night Watcher. The Night Watcher is a splinter of cultivation. Unlike most spren, she's uninfluenced by a person's perspective of her, and her behavior reflects fewer human traits than the spren of other surge binders. She appears as a vaguely humanoid shaped cloud of dark green mist with a feminine face. Those who petition her receive both a boon and a curse through the old magic. I don't know what the old magic is, but that's cool. The sibling is a splinter of both honor and cultivation. Okay, so you can be a spren of multiple. Interesting. The sibling manifests in the physical realm as the tower city of Urithriad, including most of its fabrials, which they can control and power with tower light. Just a bunch of words. The Stormfather, known to listeners as the Rider of Storms, is a splinter of honor. He commands the high storms and reportedly has spoken to people within the stillness of the storm's center beat. He is mostly present in the physical realm and manifests as an enormous face stretching across the... Okay, so there is something in the storm, but obviously not the other storm, because that's Odium doing his shtick. Spren divide from Odium's energy are void spren. Unlike most spren, void spren retain their cognitive function in the physical realm without a bond. Some void spren serve as sapient agents of Odium, while others are akin to lesser spren, able to bond with singers and grant form of power. Okay. Certain void spren can make themselves certain void spren can make themselves. Oh, I like this. I like seeing all of this. They didn't do the beauty one though, which was my favourite. can make themselves invisible, even to those who can typically see sapient spren. Examples of void spren include the following: blight spren. Blight sprens look like small yellow puffs of miasma. When bonded to a singer's gem heart, they grant the regal decay form. Chaos spren. Spren are invisible most of the time, but they leave trails of red sparks and lightning under certain circumstances. Guide spren look much like wind spren, though they are yellow. They can also take humanoid forms, appear as tiny beings who step through the air on a pillar of yellow light. Okay. Haste spren appear as torn purple insect wings tossed through the wind. When bonded to a singer's gem heart, they grant the regal relay form. Night spren legend has it the night spren only appear in complete darkness, leading to rampant misinformation and unreliable descriptions. When bonded to a singer's gem heart, they grant the regal night form. Secret spren might crackle with energy. They raise an alarm on sensing particularly noticeable use of energy, such as fabrils and certain surges. Storm spren glow red with. Okay, so there's these red storm spren that are storm spren, but they're not of the storm that's always been there. They're of odium. Interesting. Zeal's spren, they look like blue droplets of oil. When bodied, you get the regal one. Okay. Envoy form. Corrupted spren. Sijar Anat, one of the Unmade, can corrupt spren. When she corrupts, or as she prefers to call it, enlightens a spren, they take on a more visceral, exaggerated appearance than the normal counterparts. For example, enlightened shame spren look like shards of glass, while the hands of enlightened pain spren become elongated and monstrous. Through Sijar Anat, though Sajanat once only corrupted lesser spren, she has gained the ability to corrupt radiant spren. That's not good. An enlightened radiant spren who forms a bond may grant surge binding effects that differ from those of other radiant spren. Why is this bad? They never mention why this is bad or why it's corrupted. Like, what does that mean? It doesn't say anything bad about the person who bonds with a corrupted radiant spren. Surge binding. Surges are fundamental forces of the Cosmere. These surges are powered by a source of energy, and the manipulation of them is known as surge bindings. Beings and items that surge bind are often beholden to certain conditions depending on how they access their power. For singers and humans, surge binding is typically made possible through a bond with a spren. The use of a highly invested item such as an honor blade, or the use of technology that combines invested materials to produce a certain effect. The most famous surge binders on Roshar are the Knight's Radiant. While a surge binder is infused with Stormlight, it grants them energy, heals physical ailments, and can be used to fuel surges. Interesting. There are 10 surges. Every Knight Radiant has access to 2 surges, bound by an oath and strictures of their order. Each Radiant Order's surges overlap with that of one other Radiant Order. The following surges are organized by the Radiant Order they overlap with. Right. Adhesion. Adhesion is the surge of binding wielded by bondsmiths and windrunners. Surge binders with access to adhesion can use full lashing to create temporary bonds. Although the bonds are typically physical, bondsmiths of Knight's Radiant can use the surge for spiritual connections. So I can bind myself, bind something, or can I bind something to me? Interesting. I'd have to look into more to see how that actually works. Gravitation is the surge of gravitational attraction wielded by windrunners and skybreakers. So the windrunners can attach themselves to something, bind something, and also bring something to them. Interesting. Surge binders with access to gravitation can use basic and reverse lashing to change the direction or pull of gravity for themselves and others. Other objects, people and objects they infuse, granting them the ability to fly. Division is the surge of destruction wielded by skybreakers and dustbringers. Interesting. Surge binders with access to division can split molecular bonds in beings and objects, controlling their disintegration and decay with precision. That seems powerful. What? Aberration is the surge of frictional force wielded by dustbringers and edge dancers. These dustbringers seem insanely powerful. Surge binders with access to aberration can increase or decrease friction between two surfaces, even giving themselves the ability to become frictionless and to skate. Right. But then can I increase the friction on like an object with something else and like make like a fire? Progression is the surge of growth wielded by edge dancers and truth watchers. They can control growth and regrowth. They can heal. Illumination is the surge of light and sound wielded by truth watchers and light weavers. Surge minders with access to illumination can create visual and auditory illusions. Okay. Transformation is the surge of conversion wielded by light weavers and else callers. Can soulcast, transforming a being or object into one of 10 essences. Interesting. I'm assuming there's restrictions, or else they could just insta-kill people. Transportation is the surge of realmatic transition, wielded by else callers and wild shapers. Why do the wild shapers not have transformation or progression? One that is related to growth, the other one is relating to transformation. I would assume both of those for wild shapers. Weird, but whatever. Can travel between the physical, cognitive, and cognitive realm. Okay, so they can switch into the brain realm. Interesting. Cohesion is the surge of shaping solid objects. Okay, surge binders with access to cohesion can use stone shaping to mold solid materials, usually stone, into different shapes. I could see you being able to use that as a shield. That'd be pretty useful. So I think of them in combat. I know that's not right, but I think of them in combat. Tension is the surge of manipulating rigidity, wielded by stone wards and bondsmiths. Surge binders with access to tension can alter the stiffness of substances, forging protective barriers of flexible objects. Okay. Okay. Tell you what, give me a second. I need to put my color block on. Because I'm just going to... Oh, it didn't actually put that on. Never mind, I'm a genius. I figured out how to actually do a basic thing in like Discord and also this. Okay. Bonds. Let's see how these bonds work. Because I'm assuming this is the bit that you want to be doing, right? You want magic. If you're in a system, for me, if I'm in a system like this, I want access to magic because I want to be doing cool stuff. Because that's how I get part of my entertainment, is through having cool magical abilities to stuff. It's why I'm not hugely interested in anything that's just based in pure reality. It's just a bit boring to me sometimes. Right, Nahel bonds. The Night Radiant access the surges through Nahel bonds. One-on-one relationships with Radiant Spren, right? Human or Singer can attract a Radiant Spren through exhibiting personality traits and behaviors desirable to the Spren's type. These bonds empower both the person by granting them the access to two surges, and the Spren by allowing them to maintain their unique identity and memories in the physical realm. A bond naturally encourages both parties to challenge each other and work together to improve individually and as a pair. As the Radiant swears a series of ideals, the bond is further strengthened. A radiant's eligibility to swear those oaths is generally based on their personal growth and their effort to build trust with the spren. A person can damage or sever their bonds by betraying their ideals and their spren. Shard blades. Shard blades are legendary weapons containing splinters of Shard's power. Okay, it's got a bit of God in them. They're around 6 feet long but very light and can cut through non-living things with ease and precision. Makes me think of a lightsaber. When used against living beings, shard blades don't cut through them. Never mind, they're not lightsabers. But they can sever through the spiritual connection to a body part. What does that mean? Like, can you not use it? A shard blade's origin and abilities depend on its type. Classifications include honor blades, radiant blades, and dead shard blades. Honor blades originally belonged to one of the 10 heralds. Each honor blade can be used as a shard blade. Grants Weir access to 2 surges that they can use to surge bind. Unbound by radiant oaths. Okay, so it gives you another 2, or you can use those 2 but without the oaths. Radiant shard blades. Once a radiant had attained the 3rd ideal, they can summon their spren on as a shard blade in the physical realm. So once you're really good and you've got a great bond with the spren that you've bonded with, you can summon a shard blade. Sometimes called living shard blades, these weapons can adapt their size and shape to form various melee weapons desired by their wielder. So don't be a ranged weapon user that's a radiant knight, I guess. Dead shard blades are the bodies of Deadeye spren who perished due to radiant breaking their oath. These weapons can't change shape or size, but they can still form a rudimentary bond with a current wielder who can summon and dismiss them. I see. So you don't get the powers, but you do get a blade that can cut soul. Shard plate. The impervious armor called shard plate is formed by lesser spren drawn to a radiant of the 4th ideal. So it's gone up from the 3rd ideal, so this is even bigger. Like shard plate can be living or dead. Infused gemstones are required to power the dead plate. Interesting. What I'd be interested of is there is an honor blade that's obviously related to the honor god or honor shard. Why isn't there a cultivation blade or an odium blade? What is the reasoning behind why the other shards haven't made blades? Who knows? Maybe that's just not part of their principle, but I feel like odium would have. Science and technology. Richard's technology advancements are dominated by the science of fabrials. These light-powered devices utilize gemstones and spren to perform specific tasks. People who design fabrials are known as artifabrians. Okay, so it's artificial but with fabrian. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Modern fabrials. Modern fabrials are created by capturing spren and gemstones, then constructing a metal framework around them. Around the gems. Oh, I feel sorry for the spren. As spren react to various metals differently. Metals and gemstones can be combined into fabrials with complex effects. Most modern fabrials fall into one of 3 functions: altering, pairing, or warning. However, a few recently inverted fabrials can't be classified by any of these categories. Altering fabrials. Altering fabrials are designed to adjust a specific attribute or property. Augmenters have pewter frames and enhance a certain property. A common augmenter is the hetriol, which increases the heat in nearby areas. Okay, so they'll be used for like freezers and heaters and stuff. Okay, I could see that. Diminishers. Diminishers have a tin frame and reduce certain properties. A common diminisher is the pain reel, most of which are used to reduce pain. I could see that. There's some pain reels are augmented instead to heighten the feeling of instead of soothing it. Okay. I wonder what it means to augment, say, if I augment a rain spren, for example, does a rain spren produce rain and therefore I have clean water? Or does it increase the chances of a cloud releasing all the water in it? I'd be interested to see how that works. Pairing fabules. Pairing fabules are created by splitting the gemstone containing a spren in half. This results in a connected pair of connected gemstones that can serve force either moving in parallel or opposite of each other. Conjoining are made from a split ruby, creating a parable connection over great distances. Span reeds, a fabrial that connects two pens to facilitate long distance communication. So that's how they do their long distance communication. Reversins are usually made from a split amethyst, creating an opposite connection. If one half of a reversin is raised, the other half is lowered. They're utilized on the Shetland plains to create a anchored tower. Oh, that's kind of cool. What's this? What's this blooming infinity gauntlet looking thing? Warning fabules. A warning fabule is made from a heliodor and a bronze structure. Can detect the presence of objects, people, or other phenomena. The only known warning fabule is commonly called the alerter. The amount of stormlight infused into the gemstone determines the range of the alerter. Several recently invented fabules include the following. Fall outside the standard categories. The timepiece fabule are powered by logic spren captured in a smokestone. Okay, they're clocks. Attractor fabules can use iron framework to draw in specific substances such as moisture or smoke. Okay, I can see the logic of that. Repellers to push away specific materials such as wood or stone. Is that supposed to be put in a battering ram and you destroy your door? Or is it supposed to be used in like construction and stuff? It's probably just for that instead. Ancient fabules. Fabules exist as far back as the heraldic epochs during the height of the old Night Radiant. Instead of entrapping Sven in spren in gemstones, the Radiants of this era knew how to persuade a spren to manifest as metallic devices in the physical realm, forming marvelous ancient fabules. Surge fabules. Ancient fabules can manipulate surges and replicate the effect of surge binding. Soul casting. Manipulate the surge of transformation. One on hand, a soul caster contains a trio of gemstones. It's this thing. Specific materials into others as determined by the gem's color. Some soul casters have gems of different colors and greatly increasing their utility, while others have limited by the gem of a single color. Okay. So it seems like in the before times, they decided, hey, why don't we have a symbiotic relationship with this Bren? Because that works for the surge binding. Why don't we do that for everything? And it obviously has a better effect. There's the Oath Gates. There are huge, enormous fabules that manipulate the surge of transportation. When activated by an honor blade or a living shard blade, an Oath Gate can instantaneously transport anything on its platform or within its control room to either a paired Oath Gate teleportation. Right. So honor blade people have access to effectively a teleportation thing, but it's very limited because people can't make Oath Gates anymore. I'm interested to see if because they haven't mentioned singers at all in this part, so I'm guessing singers don't do fabrials, probably because it traps them. But I wonder if the ancient fabrials, which seem like they're a symbiotic relationship, they would be more up for and maybe would have done. It's probably ancient, it's like they do here. It's probably lost to time or something. Regrow fabules constructed from a topaz and a heliodor. Manipulate the surge of progression to heal severe. Okay, so there's a healing object. Well, like this, it temporarily just gets rid of your powers. Light studies. Stormlight has been the subject of much research. Most of these studies focus on how to transfer it between gemstones or creating a fabule requires trapping it. As creating a fabule requires trapping a spren through the rapid transfer of light. Light is the manifestation of energy on Roshar. There are three primary lights: Stormlight, which is of honor, Life Light of cultivation, and Void Light of odium. Okay, so there are the three different gods' lights in this, but they're not always. Some of them have bits that they do, and some don't. In addition to these pure lights, hybrid lights can theoretically be created by unifying two of these lights. Two of those three hybrids are known to have been created. Tower light is the essence of the sibling, so it's the essence of cultivation and honor. The Spren who comprises the Fabrials of Utheria. This hybrid light of Stormlight and Lifelight can only be found created by the sibling and their bondsmith. But what's it used for? Is it for Fabrials? Is that just for the unique Fabrials that he has? Warlight is a recent discovery made by collaboration between the Frisid scholar Raboniel and Queen Navani Colin. The hybrid light of Stormlight and Voidlight can be created by a singer and a human singing the rhythms of odium and honor in harmony. That feels like it's hard to do because they've mentioned it being a recent discovery, so I'm assuming it's a hard thing to do. Antilight. The discovery of Antilight was another product of the research by those two. Antilight is a form of anti-energy, and when it comes into contact with the light it opposes. It results in mutual annihilation. Because of this, Antilight can permanently kill an invested entity. Antilight Voidlight was rediscovered by Navani, who figured out the method of creating it. It can perfectly kill beings invested by Odium, such as Voidspren or the Fused. Anti-Stormlight was rediscovered by Raboniel, who figured out a method of creating it and can permanently kill beings invested by honor, such as Radiant Spren. But there isn't an anti-Lifelight, interestingly enough. Rasium. Rasium is a god metal. What? A metal formed directly from a shard. In this case, from the shard of Odium. Okay, so it's Odium's metal. The Fused use it to create weapons that can siphon Stormlight from a Night Radiant. So they're interesting. They're different from Honor Blades, though. Because Rasium naturally conducts energy, a Rasium weapon set with a gemstone can kill an invested entity. This is done by infusing the gem with the proper anti-light. But what if are there no entities of Lifelight? Interesting. So there's this place over here that seems to have a decent defense against everything else. This place I can see why this place is well liked. I see why they are perfectly fine because they're surrounded in two ways by mountains. I feel like this place as well would do pretty well because it comes from that way, right? The storm. I feel like this area as well must be highly sought after because that's sort of a small area that's blocked by two mountains. I like the crossbow. I'm never. Is that a real thing in real life where they have the two bows that you pull back? I guess it gives you more power. Ooh, cultures. Okay, this will be interesting. The people of Roshar are determined and resourceful, thriving despite the world's ever-growing threats. This chapter details many of Roshar's vibrant people and nations as they were during the era of solitude, followed by the details on how they've changed since the Everstorm ushered forth the true desolation. The people of Roshar are ethically and culturally diverse populations with two primary origins: the Singers, who are Roshar's original inhabitants, and the humans who fled to Roshar after destroying their own planet. Oh, but they are from another dimension. While the Singers granted the humans a safe place to settle on Roshar, the humans eventually invaded the rest of the planet. During the wars known as the Desolation, humans spread across the continent and divided it into 10 kingdoms known as the Silver Kingdoms. Most of these kingdoms have since fractured, evolved, or become defunct, but this era shaped the modern-day people of Roshar, creating the distinctions in eth- eth- ethnicity, culture, and language among humans that exist to this day. For the Singers, the end of the Desolation was a time of catastrophic loss. After the final conflict with the humans, the vast majority of the Singers have pieces of their souls ripped away in a single cataclysmic event that severed them from their identity and connection, leaving them physically intact, but a shadow of their former self. A small group known as the Listeners retained some of their identity and culture, but most singers outside this community were enslaved and exploited by humans for millennia after. Only the advent of the Everstorm by the brought about by the Listeners has given the singers back their parts of themselves and allowing them to fully assert their own culture and identity. I'm sorry, everything I'm seeing here is saying that the humans are absolute shits and that I shouldn't care about them, and that this new Everstorm is good. It just seems like it's a good thing. And I was right, what I said before. Very Native American coded. I guess very colonizing coded. Even with them like giving them areas and then them going, nah, we're just going to take all of it. Vorin Kingdom. The people of the Vorin Kingdom in eastern Roshar originate from a handful of Silver Kingdoms whose descendant eventually unified under a single religion, Vorinsum. Vorincium. Vorincium? Vorincium, that sounds right. While these kingdoms have ethnic and cultural differences, they generally follow the social customs and rules of Vorincium, including strict gender roles and enforced class division between people with dark eyes and people with light eyes. Foreign languages. Most foreign kingdoms feature a national language within the broad foreign language family, or one influenced by it. Ellithic, Ethili, and Vedan are dialects of the same language. Carbunthium is the linguistic blend of Vorin and Thalium. The Hedesium and the Unkaliki. Both the Hedesium and the Unkaliki people are descendants in part from the singers. Oh! Hedesium, whose singers' heritage is seen in their crystalline nails, aren't part of the Vorin kingdoms, but practice their own interpretation of Vorincium. They're known for their large families and welcoming culture. The sovereign homeland of the Ukali or Horn-Eaters is within the borders of the Vorin kingdom of J. Kevid, but they don't practice Vorincium like their neighbours. Compared to the other ethnic group within J. Kevid, the Electli are physically unique due to their distinctive singer heritage, which granted them stone-like molars that help them eat shells. Put a great amount of importance on birth order, which influences their profession and social roles. Interesting. I like these people. I'm going to make a note that I like these people. You know what? I'm going to make notes. Why not? Notes, observations about Stormlight World. I could have just put Roshar, but whatever. Why no shard blade for other gods? How soil not made when minerals and organic material exist in abundance. What else was there? Why can some spren gain sentience, but others can't? Wow, the humans seem like dicks. What else was there that I remember that I wanted to put down? Uh, quick check on things. Oh yeah, why no anti-life light? Was a bit weird. What was it? What was the new storm called? The Everstorm, was it? It was. It said it somewhere. Everstorm. Everstorm seems. What else was there? These guys. I should look up them more. You know what? I need something else here. Why plants no. Why do plants not go underground to shelter the storm? Why the mention of more sentient mention of what was it? What were they called? What were the weird things called? There was like that sentient species that live on a blimmin' turtle. The Reshi. You know what? Actually, Reshi aren't on here. Never mind. But they'll come up in a bit. Oh, that's something I actually want to bring up. Uh, that will probably be later, like here. Why do the wild shapers? Let me write it. Wild shape shapers not have tra transformation or what's the other one called? Progression? Progression. Progression seem like they fit the naming scheme. You know what? Let's do some separation so that we know what's what. They're all our observations at the moment. Let's keep going. We probably missed someone, so we did ask. But whatever. Yeah, we looked at this orders. The macabre, the mabaka, the macabre, the macabre. No, I can't say it. The macarbaka, Bacchae, the macarbaki. In Western Russia, the Silver Kingdom that split long ago into the number of nations, some of which formed the alliance known as the Azish Empire. The people descend from the inhabitants. It's weird that they called it alliance, but it's called an alliance, but they're an empire. You would have thought they'd be like a council. You know what we're putting on? Why is the alliance called the seems more like they got conquered. Well, the culture of the nation vary. They generally don't use the Roman method of division based on gender and eye color, instead using the title and position of the determined class. Fair enough. That's generally normal. Azir is the center of the empire is the most broadly known as of the current nations. The people of the PI's organization, respectful debate and politeness. It's Athens, or the assumption of Athens. While each nation within the empire has their own culture and tradition, there's a distinctive full-body raps of the Takeshi people. Most cultures within a nation share a love of hospitality. One of the heralds as a singular god, and the other as demigods under their guidance. They specify herald worship varies by region. Interesting. I wonder if the one that follow Odium would consider singers as being good. People of Far West. The Shin come from the Shinova, an isolated nation protected by mountains. They speak Shin, and with their shorter stature and eyes without epileptic folds, they stand out from most other humans in Rashar, known both for their humility and xenophobia. Oh, the Shin have a strict social structure based on occupation, which privileged farmers and merchants over warriors. Oh, the Shin practice stone shamanism and teach their civilians not to walk on stone. So the kingdom of Almer was destroyed centuries ago. While some Almian humans can be found in the far west, the most remarkable Almians are neither human nor singer. Each Dacian Almian or sleepless distributes their collective mind across many smaller insectoid beings. Ooh, they're disgusting. I'm putting them on there. Meanwhile, the even more mysterious Siam animals sometimes appear as humanoids with blue-white skin where they can shift their forms. Both species are adept at hiding their true nature, and they're rarely identified by other people. But both have played important roles in Richard's history. Other people. The lands around Pure Lake, a large inland body of water in the heart of the continent, are inhabited by Sailor people, descendants of the Silver Kingdom of Scylla Tales. Pure Lakers generally live in small villages focused on the fishing trade. The Rashai were once a small part of the Silver Kingdom of Rashir, but they lost most of their territory to the Vorin kingdoms and now live predominantly in the Richar Isles. They speak Richar and are known for their relaxed, come what may culture, which often attracts outsiders. The Iratis settled in the Silver Kingdom of Ira. They believe that their people came from another world until their eventual departure from Roshar. As promised by their religion, the Irati remain in Ira alongside Ria, a nation once closely allied with Ira that is separated from its sister nation. Well, I mean, they believe this to be true. Isn't it true? Alith Kar. Few nations show honor and odium's influence more profoundly than the militaristic kingdom of Alithkar, bound by rigid so, societal rules. The Alithi people take competition and conflict to a violent extremes. Alithkar's monarch keeps an uneasy peace among the 10 princes, each with their own territory and military forces. During the era of solitude, Alithkar united to become the largest nation in Roshar, spanning over 4 million square miles across the eastern continent. Its eastern and southern borders rest against largely empty lands and the unclaimed hills to the east and the shattered plains and frostlands to the south. However, Alkar's western borders are more disputed, and it's fought many times with the Jakevit and the Helders over the kingdom's boundaries. Alithkar also maintains a few territories off its coast that help to control its waters. Within the borders, Alithkar is a rich land with lush vegetation and flowing rivers in many areas. Alithkar has several large cities, and its capital, Kholinar, dates back to the Silver Kingdom's era. This symmetrical city was built around large rock formations called wind blades, which protect it from high storms. Military group. Though Althkar is ruled by a single monarch, the nation is also divided into 10 princedoms, each ruled by a high prince. The princedoms are named after the families that control them by inheritance. Each princedom operates with some independence and fully controls their part of the military, with all 10 princedoms are theoretically equal in power. Several titles date back to the historical Alethkar and can be revived in times of need, giving a particular High Prince control over a particular area of the kingdom. These titles include High Prince of Commerce, who has authority over merchants, High Prince of Information, who has authority on criminal investigation, High Prince of War, who has authority on overall war stuff, High Prince of Work, who manages the infrastructure. Military. Althkar has the largest military on Roshar, with around 200,000 troops and more than 30 shard bearers. The kingdom has spent centuries in constant state of war, either internally in conflicts between high princes or externally with other nations. Military service in Althkar is believed to be the highest religious calling of the Alithi can undertake. It's also one of the most reliable ways to move up in society. Though those at the bottom are unlikely to rise higher than squad leader, many soldiers go to war in the most futile hope that they might win ownership of a shard blade by defeating a shard bearer, and through that process move up in society. Most rank and file soldiers wield spears and bows, as swords are restricted to light-eyed troops and wielded only by officers. While horses are uncommon on Roshar, the Alithai army does have access to them for officers, scouts, and even cavalry. Alithai military can be seen as a unified force under the monarch's power, but the ruler of Alithai only directly commands approximately 250 royal guards. The remainder of the military is commanded by the high princes, with each leading their own force and pursuing their own goals. The monarch retains control of the princedom in part by controlling most of the Alethkar's ardent soulcasters, who are needed to help military move from place to place and feed its soldiers. The military is well armed and battle tested, but it also owes much of its success to Odium's influence. The thrill, a supernatural battle rage caused by the unmade person, was controlled in Alethkar during the era of solitude. The thrill's sinister influence was defeated during the True Desolation, but its bloodstained legacy taints the history. When 90% of the population are human, nation has historically exploited a significant population of enslaved parchmen, the descendants of singers whose minds and souls were devastated by their imprisonment. Oh. They are warlike and rigid. In addition to their caste system on eye color, based on eye color, they have a prescription division of gender, a culture that glorifies war, and a callous attitude to slavery. I hate these people. Okay, they're going on the list. Um, let's have a look. The majority of the citizens of the same ethnicity, also home to a significant portion of the other people because they probably took them as slaves. Um, I don't like you people. Social order. Culturally, they favour restraint over outward displays of emotion. Couples are expected to avoid showing public affection towards each other, and physical closeness between parents and children and child is generally reserved for younger children. Due to their interpretation of the Vorin religion, they avoid guessing what the future may bring. This extends even into social practices, and they disdain any form of gambling that relies on speculation. They are generally very rule bound, believing in obeying behavioral norms that are determined by each individual status and role. The Etherii not only embrace Vorinism, which divides people by gender and eye color, but they further codify it, creating hierarchies that echo those found within their military. It should come as no surprise that the common people hold widespread resentment towards those of high status. Even within the nobility, individuals who reject tradition and explore new ideas are often subject to mockery and contempt. Like most nations, they practice the Vorin religion. Human society in Alaketh is divided into two castes, determined by the lightness of a person's eyes. Most Alakai people have eyes of darker color, like brown, black, or deep violet. These people, called dark eyes, are members of the lower caste. Meanwhile, people with lighter shades, like blue, tan, and lavender, are called light eyes. Believing themselves superior, they form the upper caste, which ranks people into Tendal. For more information, check Vorinism. The highest rank for the light eye is First Dan, ranging down to the 10th Dan at the lowest. It's very difficult to raise one's Dan, which requires gaining an important position, becoming a shard bearer, or at lower Dans buying a higher rank. Many ranks are tied directly to either governance or inheritance, making them difficult to come by. The first Dan is held solely by the nation's monarch, and the second Dan by the high princes. The third Dan is held by those related to the members of the first two, as well as the high lords and high-ranking members of the military. By contrast, the 10th Dan is generally held by those who must earn their living. Those are called tenors. Narns, the ranks for dark eyes similarly range from 1 to 10. Those within the highest rank of first and second Narns are considered full citizens. With the right of free travel, they can even marry into lighten their families. Meanwhile, the Alathai within the 10th Dan can be sold into slavery. The right to avoid military conscription varies from one individual to another. Someone of a higher Narn might avoid being forced to join the military, but only if they show they provide an irreplaceable service. Members of lower Narn are often eager to join the military, one of the few paths to a higher rank in the society. Okay, let's go through. I'll finish off this and then we'll call it a day. Slavery. It's more prevalent. Jesus. Besides singers, it allows them to enslave humans who are prisoners of war, debtors, and accused criminals. While human slavery isn't hereditary, it's a constant threat for anyone in the 10th Dan. Those who manage to buy their freedom must spend the rest of their lives marked with a slave brand. As is customary for nations that practice Vorinism, Alethkar has a strict and narrow gender roles that apply to all citizens except Ardents. These roles include a strict gender binary. Women are generally expected to be scholars, businesswomen, and scribes. From adolescence onwards, women are expected to cover their left arms, known as their safe hands. Meanwhile, men are forbidden to read, and their writing is limited to a few simple glyphs. Men are expected to instead engage in physical labour, military service, as similar physical pursuits. The fashion is shaped both by gender roles and the caste system. Like no, men generally wear embroidered suits in darker colours that are considered more masculine, such as maroon, navy, forest green, and deep burnt orange. Women often wear brightly coloured one-piece silk dresses known as vorin Havash. Despite these gender roles, religious ardents enjoy relative freedom from such expectations. Ardents of all genders wear robes and shave their heads, and they can serve equally without restrictions on writing or studying combat. Some ardents choose to cover their safe hands with gloves for a more feminine style, though this isn't required. Jesus, how much is left of this? Okay, this is the last bit. Most Athai believe in the Almighty and practice Vorinism on some level, choosing a calling as their goal in life, and a glory as an aspect of the Almighty they wish to make present in their life. Despite this set of beliefs, most Alethi aren't particularly devout, embracing more cultural aspects of Vorinism than religious ones. They leave the rituals, prayers, and other religious practices of Vorinism to the ardents, rarely interacting with the Almighty outside of the occasional prayer. Ardents, the priests of Vorinism, enter into servitude to nobles or the monarch, and they face some restrictions. They can't own property or hold political or social offices. However, Ardents are highly respected, and as the only people permitted to use soulcasters, they wield great influence. Ardents can choose to leave the Ardentia at any time without penalty. Alethkar's most notable resource is its military, including 10 High Prince's armies composed of thousands of fierce troops, yeah sure, plus an impressive collection of around 20 known shard blades. The nation's foothold on the Shattered Plain secures massive emerald gem arts from the Chasm Fiend hunts. In terms of agriculture, their farms have grown taller and lavish grains and a load of stuff. They have hogs, they got crabs, they also have exquisite wine. Jesus. Okay. Everything I hear about this this nation is bad. I hate them. Cool. Hope everybody's had a good time watching me go through this. I've had a lot of fun actually just reading it through, actually making the time to actually sit down and like talk it through and have it there so that I know what to do. Um Wednesday we'll be doing more Expedition 33, just going through stuff, finishing off effectively. It'll probably be that session or next session where we're done and we'll go on to something else. Friday we'll be doing some more Guild Wars 2, but until then, hope everyone's had a good time. I've had a great time.